Good start into this day. I've already worked on some income sources. I've worked on my crowdfunding campaign again. Crowdfunding on the new camera, and if I get the new camera, that's of course maybe an additional source of income because I can work with it. It is a means of production, the new camera. That's how I see it. It empowers me to make better videos and to maybe get paid for doing videos, as I already have been. So that's the first step for today. Cool. Working on means of production for future sources of income to get out of this financial mess. 13 euro per day challenge is still on. I've saved in the last 2 days 14 euros, so I have 27 euros for today, or I can save more for my trip when we go hiking. I decided for the moment to not go to the Rainbow Gathering because the place is not set and I'm feeling well in Vienna and I want to work on my projects. That's why I'm staying here at the moment. You know, today I read an article on Facebook which said that the wages, the real wages, the wages adjusted for inflation have not been higher or have not grown since the 1980s. And that keeps me thinking now. Because is that really true? Can you really afford the same amount of goods since the 1980s if you work the same amount? I mean, ask yourself the question. Put yourself in the position of 1980 and consume the same stuff. Live on the same square meters. Don't use internet. Don't use your mobile phone. Get a telephone which is fixed and shared with 4 other people maybe. Go to the same travel destinations, wear the same kind of shoes like in the 1980s, and then see with your wage how much is left over. I could guess a lot more now. I guess a lot more. But obviously that's a strange comparison because you can afford much more. You can afford much different things, like technically advanced things. You cannot compare actually the 1980s to today. You've grown up, you've become older, you are in a different situation, you are high qualified maybe. There are much more people on this planet now. End of the 1980s there were in Austria 7.6 million people. Now we have 8.7 million people. So 1 million people more in Austria alone. And on the world it was 6 billion and now it's 7 billion or more. So you cannot compare the world of 1980 from the world of today. I mean, obviously what goes into this calculation? We calculate the inflation rate by a certain index where there are around 770 groups of goods you can buy in there, and you compare those prices. But there are prices in there like, I don't know, playing with their cassettes, or certain technologies are not in there. So obviously we are comparing totally different situations. I mean, Austria was not in the European Union, Austria was not in this globalized world, the whole world was not as globalized. So we're comparing totally different worlds when we compare Austria now or Germany now and the 1980s. I mean, this whole discussion about wages and real wages being the same amount as the 1980s is of course a good argument. A good argument for bargaining, for wage bargaining, for collective wage bargaining especially. I mean, the trade unions are using this as a good argument to bargain for high wages, and okay, for this maybe it's legitimate, but is it really honest? I'm not sure. But this leads to a more fundamental, even more fundamental question, which is the question of which policy advice is good. I mean, you have to take some certain numbers to make efficient policy. Like, how do you know if you, I don't know, lower some taxes, what is going to happen? What if you higher those taxes? If you cannot compare the past to the future, then you cannot use any numbers anyway. But maybe that would be a good advice for politics. I mean, in entrepreneurship you do it quite similar. It's much more trial and error. You try something out and you see, okay, that works. That's something people want to buy. That's something people want to get. So you try to sell more of it. And maybe that's also something we have to try in politics. More a trial and error. So we try some certain politics and then we see what are the effects. And still we need good numbers to see what is the effect. That's the difficulty of doing good economic politics out there. And I don't want to get into this discussion what is luck and what is having a good, decent life, because of course all those numbers certainly don't have in there like this personal aspect, because it's numbers of, over millions of people. So that's the difficulty, and maybe we should be a little bit careful if we blame politicians for not doing the right thing. I mean, if you think of all those aspects, how hard is this? How hard is it? I just went over the Donauinsel all the way from the south to rather the northwest, and the funny thing is I realized some parts of my life when I was writing on my diploma thesis at the VU, I used to go to the VU over the Danube pier. So each day I would go from the Gürtel here to the Donauinsel, and then come here, jump into the water, go on to Spittelau, to the VU. So it really reminded me now on this phase, about this phase in my life. And it used to be October and really cold, and I used to jump into the water like every day. It was such a cool phase, such an, I don't know, unique phase where I would do like every day the same in my life. Go to the VU, write. Jump into the water, go to the VU, write. Every day the same, and very, very contemplative, if you can say that.